Uh-oh, where'd the drive-thru go? Another former bank. Nothing left. Here's the bank where it was. It appears that's what's left of the banker. Doesn't look so good. Hey everybody, welcome to the YouTube channel. This is Badass Banking, and we like to talk about all things badass in banking and or fintech. So if you get a chance, please subscribe to the channel, like, dislike, comment. I don't care. It's all about engagement. And that's why today I'm with James Robert Lay. James Robert is one of my favorite people. I'm going to let him talk about himself in a minute, but I just want to remind everybody that he's the founder and CEO of the Digital Growth Institute. He is on a mission to simplify digital marketing to help financial institutions grow from good to great. I love that. And he wants to build marketing systems that guide people toward a bigger, brighter financial future. He's also, and this is very important right now, the best-selling author of a new book that just got out. Was it been 2 weeks now, James Robert?
It's been five
weeks.
We're still leading some categories on Amazon.
Awesome. And the name of the book is Banking on Digital Growth, and it's about simplifying digital marketing and sales strategies for financial brands. Geez, dude, we have known each other now for how long?
At least 10 plus years. Goes back to it all goes back to a tweet, man.
Goes back to a tweet. I mean, social engagement 101. Look where it led us. That's how I got to know Brett King and Ron Shevlin and Stessa Cohen. And I mean, how many people have we met because of social media?
It keeps growing day after day, week after month, year after year.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I mean, it's been a good journey. I've enjoyed it, and I still like social media. I haven't let go yet. So let's talk a little about the book. Tell me about what drove you down this journey to write a book.
I think the biggest thing was trying to get everything that I have learned at the time, over 18 years of consulting, guiding, advising financial brands through the lens of digital marketing, get everything that I know, get it out of my head. You know, I'm at this point in my career now to where I'm looking for scale. And the only platform, the only medium that I could think of to do that, to get knowledge transfer out at scale, was to write a book. And I'm so glad that I did, because whenever I started writing this, it was May of 2019. The world was very different. I knew it was going to be important. I didn't know it was going to be as important as it is in this post-COVID-19 world.
I don't think any of us ever expected this. I mean, my wife and I were watching, I can't remember the name of the show. Let me think for a minute. Madam Secretary on Netflix. In last night's episode, they had it was kind of like an Ebola type of pandemic that hit. And this was recorded several years ago. And it's about, I think it's based upon Secretary Clinton. I'm not really sure. But there's a scene where they've got the masks on everything and they're worried about the global spread. Who would have thought this would actually happen? There's probably a lot of people that knew it was going to happen. And we just, as the American public, did not know. But it's had a profound impact on all of us. How's it impacted you personally?
I think for me, it's been the most challenging part personally has been having 4 kids at home since they were let out for spring break back in March, and they never went back to school. I think the positive sides, and that's where I look at things. It's not getting stuck into the fear mongering, and I'm not saying that this is not real, but it's like being a digital anthropologist. I look at headlines and I look at what's the story behind the story, and it's important that people pay attention. They take this thing serious. But it's so easy to go down a negative rabbit hole and think that the world is falling down. I look at it as well, what are the greatest opportunities now in this new normal that we can create, not as individuals, but we can collaborate, we can work together on, because a rising tide raises all ships. And if there's not one industry that I can see that can come out really bigger and better in this, it's financial services, education too. I'm looking at this through the lens of education, but also through the lens of financial services. And yeah, so not being on a plane, not having to get on a plane, being able to quickly pivot the business model to be digital first, and just be able to get more. I think scale is really, it comes back to what I mentioned before about the book.
Yeah, I think we're learning some good lessons from this. At least I hope we are. There were some social media tweets and stuff this morning with Stessa Cohen, I think Theodore Lau, a couple other
Yeah.
about is there a reset occurring? Right? Are we kind of going back in time a bit and getting a little more relaxed, slowing down a bit? Maybe this consumerism that the country's gone through is withdrawing a bit, which obviously has a negative impact on the economy to a certain extent, right? People are buying less. People are doing puzzles with their families. Board games are back. Maybe there's something that's good that's coming from this.
I think there is. I think about what was I doing before we hopped on the line. I made my kids breakfast. I put together a Buzz Lightyear jetpack for one of my kids, and it was like, okay, yeah, I've got this thing going on with Bryan, but I also have this family, and it's. I think balance is really kind of the key theme that I'm seeing for a lot of people. Reconnecting with ourselves individually. It's been forever since we've been on planes, but as leaders, I think it's important that we focus on putting our oxygen mask on first, before we take care of anyone else. And it's, coaching financial brands and working with marketing teams, I'm hearing this rise of anxiety now that they've been out of the office for 3 months. And I'm like, yeah, like if you're not making a conscious effort to come together, you will grow apart.
Right.
And so that to me is the biggest thing. It's reconnecting with ourselves, with humanity.
Yep. No, I like that. And I agree. The three connections, it's healthy. Speaking of humanity, I mean, banking is very much a human business, right? I mean, the whole premise behind this badass banking concept that I have, it's built off of, the old engagement banking platform that Brett King, Sean, me, even you have spoken about year after year. What do you think the industry needs to do to make banking actually badass? And can it be badass, right? Is that possible?
Number one, absolutely. Number two, badass banking will be the result of the reset that we're seeing in financial services. It's reconnecting with ourselves as bankers, as financial brand leaders, and thinking, why am I doing this in the first place? It all comes down to, like, the opening part of the book was the historical view of how we got to this point. From the lens of marketing, and from the lens of sales, from the lens of growth. But the second point that I hit on is its purpose. And the purpose has to go beyond these commoditized products that we've all been hawking, and it's something you and I've talked about for 10 plus years now. Mm-hmm. But the reality is that now is really the time to where we talk about financial health and financial well-being. Well, it's not just talk about it. It's actually applying that at the core of the business model. And if a traditional financial brand, a traditional bank, a traditional credit union is not going to do that, we're already seeing Fintech doing that over the past few years.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a big believer in advocacy. I hate that a lot of banks and credit unions hide behind the words sometimes. It's not a banner you put out there. Advocacy is something that you have to live and breathe and bring to life, right? It has to be something that's demonstrated. And I see that in what Jill Castilla does at, Citizens Bank of Edmond. Yep. She's out there living and breathing it daily. She's actually an advocate for the entire industry.
Yes.
The whole Mark Cuban PPP loan thing that she got
another Twitter connection.
Yeah. And that's how that whole thing happened was I saw Mark Cuban's comments and I was like, you need to talk to Jill. And I thought of Jill instantly because of what she does and the stories she tells
Yeah.
on social media. So yeah, good, interesting point. It's all about listening, right? That's a whole nother story. But I do think badass banking can happen. But at its core, banking's pretty much a chore, right? You've heard me say it. I mean, banking kind of sucks if you're the average. If you're the average consumer, it sucks. And I think it was the guy that started. I think it was Simple that came out with the saying, "Hey, our goal is to make banking suck less." Right?
Yeah.
Shouldn't that be everyone's goal that's in this industry?
It's not only to make it suck less, I think it should make it even better than what we've ever thought it could be. And for me, I look at, and we've run now over 1,000 different digital secret shopping studies for financial brands, and the same patterns come back. It's confusing. Banking is frustrating. I know I need to do this, but I'm overwhelmed with all of my debt. Okay, great.
I mean, I can't wait to go home and pay my bills. I just love doing that.
Yeah, because it's a lot of anxiety. So to me, there's a lot more to come out of banking than I think just dollars and cents. I think people want three things. They want to feel healthy. So there's that health perspective. They want to feel wealthy, and doesn't mean everyone wants to be a bazillionaire. It's just to the point, I don't want to have to worry about paying these bills, and I don't want to have to worry about sending 4 kids to college. And really the third, I think it's that Maslow hierarchy of needs. I just want to be happy. And we know that money is the thread that runs through all three of those points. And so if we lean into the conversations about not only financial well-being, physical well-being, mental well-being, I think to me, that's a big area. And we're seeing Frost Bank out of Texas doing some research around this. They have a platform called Opt for Optimism. And what they're looking at is the correlation, scientifically proven now, the correlation that optimisms are traditionally going to be better off financially than a pessimist. So, well, it makes a lot of sense. So what do we have to do? Do we have to fix the mind first? Do we need to fix the wallet? Do we need to fix the body? So it's kind of this, it sounds a little bit woo-woo, but whenever I've been going back and reading some of the ancient works from the early 1900s, it all comes down to mindset. Even with the works of Carol DeWick, mindset, growth mindset versus fix, abundance versus scarcity, the way that we view the world. I think if we start having some of those conversations and facilitating some of those conversations, and the only way to do that is through looking beyond just dollars and cents and products and loans and checking accounts.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's the anxiety comment I think is important. I think people are anxious about money. There's no doubt about it. And this all impacts the mindset, obviously, all impacts bank messaging, right? Think of the average bank messaging. I'll get something out of the blue. It'll say, "Are you concerned about retirement?" Well, if I were not already retired, I would say yes. So they blew it on the data. And then it's like, "Thank you, Captain Obvious." Of course, everyone, I don't care what kind of dollars you've got in the bank or investments. Retirement's a concern. Even if you're wealthy, how do you get the biggest bang for your buck? Even if you're poor, can I afford to retire, and when? It's anxiousness, it's anxiety. So I think that's a good message. Is there a brand out there? You mentioned Frost. Is there someone out there besides Frost that's living and breathing, badass banking, or that's really doing a good job? It can be a person, it can be a brand. Love your thoughts.
Marcus by
It's
Goldman
my
Sachs.
favorite. Yeah, it's my favorite by Goldman, and that's the irony.
It is, isn't it?
It is the irony. And remember, Steve Jobs and Apple was all about, against the machine, against the man. And here we have, millennials and younger Americans, younger people worldwide, they're against the machine. And it's an investment banking giant like Goldman combined with Apple behind this. But Marcus, they're doing it, right? What do you like about them so much?
Two things. And this has been a brand that we've been studying and we've been essentially advocating for in the traditional banking space, because our job is to help the unaware become aware of what the opportunities are. And so if we don't even know who the new competitive threats are, if I think about the book, we looked at technology transforming consumer behavior, transforming competition. But what has been the biggest transformer and the accelerator has been COVID. What I like about Marcus is the simplicity and the positioning, the simplicity and the messaging, the simplicity in the application process. They begin with just two products, a personal loan and a high yield savings account. And I mean, obviously their next big step, and they've been talking about this publicly, is bringing some type of spending or checking account to bear. But to me, it's that focus. And I think, what are they at? 70 billion on the loan side and 8 billion in deposits, more or less. And I could be off just a little bit, but 3 years. Why? Because they're speaking to the vernacular, to the pain points that people have, and positioning themselves as the cure or the prescription to those pain points.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, Marcus, I think, is really hitting a home run. I think a lot of people out there, a lot of the pundits out there, the influencers would tell you the same. Any other brand? How about a traditional bank that you see that's doing something that's pretty cool?
I'll take Tropical Financial, Amy McGraw.
Amy McGraw. Yep, I know Amy.
Amy McGraw. She's been doing some really neat stuff with a sub brand called Get Beyond Money. It is really a purpose-driven initiative that they're positioning themselves in the marketplace as the helpful guide and the story and the narrative that people tell themselves. So money is stressful. The stress takes a toll on people's health. And so Tropical says, hey, you can get beyond money to get to that brighter future that we were talking about to begin with in the first place. And so there's a calculator of sorts on there to see how much a person, and I think this is key, it's about positioning, not how much a person can save, but how much a person can stop losing by engaging with Tropical. They can schedule a Get Beyond Money review with a Get Beyond Money coach, and there's content that supports this. So it's really taking that idea of financial health, well-being, and putting a lot behind that. Another on that same perspective is OnUp by SunTrust, soon to be Truist. That's been another narrative story that we've been studying and following and advising around over the last 4 years since they came to market. And millions now have joined that program. Whether or not it goes on to yield an account for Truist or SunTrust, that's not the point. The point is to help someone get beyond that financial stress and move them on up in their life. So those are, I think, are two traditional brands who are really applying this thinking and breaking free from the legacy thought of pushing products and services.
Yeah, two brands that are acting very human-like. It's kind of ironic. Any final words? I know your time is valuable, and I've already taken up a lot of it.
I think the most important thing when we look ahead to the future of financial services, to what it takes to be a badass bank or a badass banker, it's one thing. It's putting people at the center of everything that we do. I mean, we live in such a narcissistic world, a narcissistic culture, a narcissistic society, that it's easy to present those traits through just our own brand positioning. And whenever you take the antithesis of that and say, hey, it's not about us. It's about those people and the communities that we serve. And remembering, so human-centered design, if you will. Two things, if I was to end this on a formulaic perspective. DX plus HX equals growth. And that's the digital experience plus the human experience will yield long-term future growth. It's not just the digital. It's not just the technology. It's about using technology, the tool, to bring people together for good.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think that's why that intersection between fintech and Finserv is such an opportunity. And I hope that the banks and the credit unions out there embrace fintech and technology more, keeping in mind, that again, that human interaction is at the core, and that everything about money is tied to emotional well-being and financial well-being. So I,
Absolutely.
I love what you're saying. Listen, I appreciate your time today. For those of you that joined us, thank you very much. Up next, we're going to have Stessa Cohen, formerly from Gartner, and also Sarah Cook, formerly from the CU Times. So James Ryder had to bring some ladies into it. These are both bright women that have
Bright.
a lot to say. So
Very
I'm
bright.
excited to have them. Listen, dude, as always, I appreciate your time. I'm going to post a link to your book and a link to your website. I want people to check it out and learn more about you guys. So for all you out there, please subscribe, like, dislike, comment, whatever you want. I welcome even the haters out there. It's all about engagement. So my man, I appreciate it. And I hope to hear from you soon.
Yes, sir, Bryan. Thank you. Be well. Be good.